A $10,000 bonsai disappeared in the middle of the night. But the thief didn't know. They had fallen into a trap that would lead them to prison. Welcome to Karen Karma Channel. Let us know where you're watching from by leaving a comment below. I've always loved bonsai, not just because it's beautiful, but because each branch, each leaf is a result of time, patience, and a part of my soul that I have poured into it. In the middle of my yard, under the soft moonlight, the Shimpaku juniper casts an imposing shadow, like an old man who has silently stood the test of time. For the past 15 years, I've been shaping each branch, trimming each leaf, and watering it drop by drop. I watch the roots curl around the stone, clinging tightly like the claws of a dragon crawling on the ground. Its lush green foliage, soft as silk, gently sways when a light breeze blows by. The Shimpaku juniper may seem like just a small pot, but its value exceeds $10,000. I cherished it more than anything. But then Karen showed up and changed everything. In this neighborhood, everyone hates Karen. Not just hate, but hate to the core. The kind of hate that when she shows up anywhere, people instinctively grip the armrests, hold onto their bags, and glance at each other with wary eyes. She is the embodiment of meddlesome, greedy, and shameless behavior. Every neighbor has been a victim of hers in one way or another. If someone leaves something behind in their yard, don't expect to see it again. If someone receives a package but hasn't brought it inside yet, it might already be in Karen's living room with her shameless excuse. Oh, I thought it was mine. The first time I truly understood her nature was on a Saturday morning when I stepped out onto the porch. My package was lying there, the box torn apart, wrapping paper scattered all over. Inside, a pricey watch I had ordered from Switzerland had disappeared without a trace. I gritted my teeth, my eyes scanning the yard. And then I saw her. Karen, with her silver hair always perfectly styled in an updo, was standing on her lawn, her hand half hidden beneath the wide coat. Her eyes skimmed over me, completely guilt-free, as if what was happening had nothing to do with her. I clenched my fist and walked over. "Mrs. Whitmore," I growled, "did you see anyone pick up my package this morning?" She blinked, pretending to be innocent. "Oh, a package? I didn't see anything, dear." Her words were as sweet as sugar, but I knew well that in this neighborhood, her sugar always had poison in it. I glanced down at her hand. Her slender fingers, carefully manicured, were gripping something. A brown box with the logo of the store I had ordered from. I took a deep breath, holding back my anger. My package was just one of many things that had mysteriously disappeared. Mr. Williams' outdoor chair, gone. Mrs. Jones' garden hose, vanished. The Parker's kitten. No one dared to say anything, but everyone had the same suspicion. And now, she wasn't just targeting trivial things anymore. She targeted my most precious treasure, the bonsai tree that I had spent 8 years nurturing, trimming each leaf, bending each small branch. A masterpiece, a part of my soul, and it was gone. That morning, sunlight crept through the crack in the window, casting a soft golden layer over the peaceful scene outside. I held a hot cup of coffee, took a deep breath, and enjoyed the morning air. But that feeling of relaxation didn't last long. Something felt off. I stepped outside, looking around. A gentle breeze brushed past, making a few dry leaves spin on the ground. But something was missing. I squinted. The small yard in front of me was empty. My beloved bonsai, gone. My heart raced, and the heat from the coffee cup suddenly felt meaningless. I scanned the area, hoping to find some clue. Footprints in the dirt, a pried open gate. But no, the fence was intact. The gate was tightly closed. I felt a chill run down my spine. Impossible. Could someone have a key? Or a professional thief? Without hesitation, I rushed into the house, trembling as I turned on the security camera screen. The image that appeared left me frozen. 4 a.m. A short, stocky figure, wearing a thick coat, sneaked into the yard. The intruder's movements were slow but very determined. I squinted, trying to make out the face under the faint streetlight. And then, the messy blonde hair. I blinked. No way. Karen, the troublesome neighbor, always causing trouble and digging into other people's business. And now, she was carrying my precious bonsai pot, struggling to drag it out of the yard as though she just won the lottery. I gritted my teeth. Less than 2 minutes later, I was standing at Jack's door, the neighbor next door. I knocked firmly 3 times. Jack opened the door, still half asleep. Jack sleepily asked, "What's going on so early?" I, gritting my teeth, holding up my phone. "She just stole my $10,000 bonsai." Jack looked at the screen, instantly waking up. Jack, hissing, "Karen again? I bet she thought you wouldn't dare call the police." I, clenching my jaw, eyes darkened. "This time, she's terribly mistaken." Jack crossed his arms, squinting. "So, what are you going to do about it?" I took a deep breath, a thought flashing in my mind. I wasn't in a hurry to call the police. I have another plan. Karen needs to learn a lesson she will never forget. I walked out of the bonsai shop, holding a small but exquisite bonsai pot. At first glance, it was no different from a work of art, with its perfectly curved trunk and lush green leaves covering the ground like a miniature forest. I placed the new bonsai in front of the house, exactly where the previous bonsai had mysteriously disappeared. I admired my special gift, smirking with satisfaction. Let's see if she dares this time. I went back and patiently waited. As expected, the clock on the security camera struck 11 p.m. At the house next door, the living room light was still on. Through the window crack, the shadow of a woman could be seen, her eyes scrutinizing every detail of my yard with an envious look. "Look, he's bought another bonsai. And it's even more beautiful than the last one." Karen gritted her teeth, whispering to her husband in excitement. Her husband, who had grown too accustomed to her antics, sighed wearily. "Stop it. The last time was too much. That's still haunting me." "Shut up," Karen snapped, throwing her husband an angry glare. "I'll take it before he even notices." Her husband shook his head in exasperation. "Are you crazy? That tree belongs to him." Karen pouted, her voice sharp. "So what? If he doesn't protect it, it belongs to me." Her husband didn't bother to argue further. He knew one thing for sure. When Karen wanted something, no one could stop her. That night, like a prowling wildcat, Karen quietly opened the door and sneaked out into my yard. The streetlights cast her silent shadow across the ground like a petty thief carrying out a criminal act. She crouched down, carefully lifting the bonsai pot. That was a big mistake. "Ha! This is too easy," Karen sneered, then tightly hugged her prize, hurrying back to her house as if afraid someone might catch her. But just a few seconds later, Karen jumped up as if she had been electrocuted. Red-hot fire ants, fierce and aggressive, were pouring out from every crevice of the leaves. They crawled into the gaps of her hands, slid through her sleeves, and crawled up her neck like invaders who had just taken over new territory. "Oh my God, they're biting me. Help me." She began jumping up and down, wildly slapping her body. But the more she slapped, the more frantic the ants became. The tiny but sharp mandibles bit deep into her skin, leaving swollen, burning red marks as if she were being scorched. Karen's husband rushed over, his face panicked when he saw his wife writhing like someone possessed. "What did you do?" "It's the ants. Alaga. They're everywhere." She ran into the house, rushed toward the kitchen, grabbed a towel, and threw it on her body to swipe the ants off. But it was too late. The tiny but terrifying ants had spread throughout the house, crawling on the sofa, creeping across the wooden floor, and even starting to crawl up her husband's legs. "What the hell are you doing? They're crawling all over me." Both of them jumped up, flailing wildly at each other, trying to escape the deadly insects. Karen stormed out of the house like a whirlwind, her hair in disarray, her hands flailing around as if trying to brush something off her body. Oh my God! Help me! They're everywhere!" she screamed, stomping her feet loudly, hitting her arms and legs hard. The entire neighborhood fell silent for a moment. People turned their heads, their eyes filled with curiosity and amusement. From the opposite porch, Mrs. Simmons, a middle-aged woman known for eavesdropping, frowned and crossed her arms in front of her chest. "Again, what's happening this time?" A middle-aged man, still holding a beer in his hand, snickered derisively. "She must have gotten into trouble with someone again and is now facing the consequences." The kids burst into laughter. One boy wearing glasses, holding a soda can, pointed at Karen. "Look at her, jumping around like she just won the lottery. No, look at her face. It's all red." Phones started being raised. The sound of photos being taken and giggles echoed from several corners of the street. Karen frantically ran toward the public water faucet on the roadside, her hands trembling as she turned the faucet all the way on. "Oh my God, they're biting me. Oh my God, I'm going to die." Cold water poured out. Karen splashed it on her face and hands, but still couldn't stop jerking from the sharp, stinging pain like needles. Mrs. Simmons looked closely, then suddenly burst into loud laughter. "Good Lord, she's been bitten by fire ants." The entire neighborhood exploded with laughter. A man shook his head, laughing loudly. "I thought it was something serious." A young man raised his phone to film up close, laughing in delight. "You won't be able to wash it off. The fire ants' bites will still itch until tomorrow morning." Karen screamed in desperation. She continued to struggle, but the tiny ants had already done their job. New laughter rang out all over the street, and surely that video would be online within 30 minutes. I leisurely sipped my coffee, enjoying the little show in front of me. But that wasn't enough. The next morning, I opened the video from the security camera, and the details were clear. Karen, in her disheveled floral pajamas, crouching down and stealthily carrying my precious bonsai pot, glancing nervously from side to side. I pressed send on the video to the police, along with a brief message. "Bonsai value, $10,000. This is not petty theft." It didn't take long. Less than an hour later, the sound of police sirens blared loudly in front of Karen's house. The neighbors, curious, peeked through their window curtains. Some even stepped out onto their porches, waiting for the drama to unfold. Two police officers stepped out. One of them spoke with a serious tone. "Mrs. Whitmore, you are under arrest for theft of high-value property." Karen rushed out of the house, her face pale. She hurriedly threw on a sweater, her disheveled hair reflecting her panic. No, it's just a misunderstanding," Karen shouted, her voice distorted. "It's just a plant. Just a plant." The tall police officer crossed his arms and coldly responded. "The plant is worth $10,000, Mrs. Whitmore. You should call your lawyer." Karen stammered a few meaningless words before her hands were twisted behind her back. The cold clank of the handcuffs echoed with authority. The neighbors started whispering, but no one showed any sympathy. Some snickered, and others shook their heads and murmured, "She used to act so high and mighty. Now look who's the one who's shameful." Karen was dragged away, tears streaming down her face. She struggled, but no one bothered to speak up to help her. An elderly woman across the street even chuckled and nodded at her husband, saying, "Justice sure has a sweet taste, huh?" A few months later, the trial was quick. With irrefutable evidence, Karen was sentenced to 6 months in prison and ordered to compensate those in the neighborhood. I was never told the exact amount, but it was certainly not small. On the day she left, No one in the neighborhood bothered to see her off. I quietly placed the bonsai back in its proper spot, admiring each perfect leaf under the setting sun. The afternoon tea fragrance spread, mingling with a feeling of satisfaction in my heart. I smiled faintly. Finally, justice has prevailed. Has your life ever been disturbed by annoying neighbors like Karen? Leave a comment, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the Karen Karma channel.